Hello, Jelly Fighters. This is your Daily Brogue for July 25th, 2021. I have been trying to get through the latest BS that I'm spewing. This time I've been ragging on the red pill community and the black pill community, and I don't do anything on the blue pill community because there isn't such a community. That's just a fake thing that the red pill people made up to be against, right? And, what they're really saying is that, all this bad advice that I got when I was a kid, when I was 18, probably shouldn't have been given to me, and probably I should have gotten some more practical advice, right? But, a lot of times you're not really going to the right people. You're going to, your mother, right? Or you're going to some woman for advice. And like I said several times before, the last person you want to get advice from about women is women, because they have no practical experience, right? They have never dated a woman, and if they have, that woman is probably not looking for the same thing from another woman as, a heterosexual woman would be thinking about for you. So, again, not really the people that you want to take advice from, but, that's, it's not the craziest idea. You want to get an idea about what women like. Why not ask a woman? She might know, but that misses an important point, which is, women aren't a monolithic block, right? So, women are people, so some women like some things, some women don't, right? Just look at hentai, right? Or something like that. Why would women like tentacle monsters? I don't get it. But I know women who do. Right? So, and they're a lot of fun. But not everybody's that fun. And, that's why, it's a matching game. It's a sort of mating game. Sort of thing that makes it kind of interesting, right? Is that you're not just looking for a woman, you're looking for a woman that you can more or less associate with at a reasonable level. I have two broadswords. Wonderful. And one of them is a good broadsword, so it might be worth investing in. Okay, so let's wander around with that on depth 3 and see how that works. No, I guess we'll do a little on depth 4. So the blue pill doesn't exist, right? But, just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean it's not true that there's a lot of bad advice that young men are given. Completely unhelpful advice is what I mean by bad, right? Anytime people are saying, you're looking for the right girl or something like that, the right one, that sort of presupposes other things, right? Like, first you can find one to begin with, right? Because, women, they have different issues, right? So as a 20-year-old guy especially, but, as a guy, your first job is to get the date, and that is hard. And you have to ask, a bunch of women to get one date. That's the way it works, right? And you shouldn't be too upset when a woman doesn't go out with you. So I guess if I'm going to start giving advice, the first thing is don't get attached to one woman, right? Until you've got her, right? I remember I had one friend when I was talking about some girl I liked, just looked at me and he said, before you do anything more, I need to know one thing, right? Pink or brown, right? That's it, right? You say, well, that's pretty intimate, but yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If you don't have that level of intimacy with a woman, then probably it doesn't matter what your opinions of the woman are, right? It's too early, right? Just too early. That's because as a dude, you're starting off on step one, and when you're talking to women, let's say, and trying to get an idea about what you should do, you have a problem because they start off at step two, right? They've already figured out who's interested in them. You have to spend some time trying to figure out who's interested in you, right? You don't know that, right? It's one of the biggest problems that you've seen is that, well, maybe not you've seen, but I've seen, is that, guys, especially younger guys, haven't figured out that your interest in her doesn't mean she's interested in you. That's getting the game backwards. So, in general, right, very good. So, should I say this? In general, the general idea about dating, the general truth of dating that you should always remember is that you are a 6 looking for an 8, right? And being pursued by 4s. You're a 6 looking for an 8 being pursued by 4s. And that already sounds bad enough, right? You can look at that and you can say, I'm not going to get that 8. The way, dudes rate chicks, right, is with a normal distribution on a bell curve, basically. What does that mean? Well, it means that there are more 6s than 8s, right? There are more average-looking dudes than there are hot women, period, right? That's the way it is. So yeah, I mean, it gets a little bit worse, right? Because of that. So it was pretty good broadsword. So it gets a little bit worse because of that, and it gets a little bit worse when you realize that as the median guy, whereas the median woman is 5, the median guy, as rated by women, is a 3, right? 80% of dudes are 5 and below, right? So women don't think you look good, and I've seen you. They're right? So you should be reasonably suspicious of dating advice. That doesn't take into account the fact that you are, especially as a 20-year-old dude, you are less valuable on the dating market, as you might say. Not a great analogy, but not a bad one. You're less valuable on the dating market than the women you're attracted to. So it's going to turrets. How many dudes are going to die? Oh, he can't get out. Okay, the scale mail's good, very good. Got one. Oh, whoops. Lightning in Discord. Negation. Okay, I'm glad I did that. All right. All right. So let's. Where am I? I'm gonna. Okay. All right. So. Crap. So maybe we should get to the point where you have you're getting some practical advice, right? Probably like some practical advice rather than just random BS. And let's see, what kind of practical advice can I give you? Well, the first practical advice I can give you is, you're trying to play with women. Your job is being cruise director, all right? That doesn't sound great, I guess. It's not bad. You know, you have to figure out things to do. That's your job, right? That's not her job. And so you have to just sort of remember that. It shouldn't be hard to remember, right? That's also the key to getting in with women, right? Is that you don't ask if she'll go on a date with you. You have to ask them, if they would like to do this thing with you, right? Or actually, the best way to do it is to, you have to have something to do, and you ask them, you tell them that you're going to do the thing, and then ask them if they'd like to do it with you, right? Because, you need somebody to go with you, right? And you'd like it to be with them. That's a pretty good policy, actually. So, scale mail of reprisal, very good. And, the way this worked for me was in the good old days. I had very annoying. Good idea in the good old days I had. What should I call them? Memberships to all the local museums, right? And that worked out perfectly, right? So I had there are a lot more of those stupid. Do I have a life? A lot more of those cracking marble statues, it feels like, in the new edition. So in the good old days, I would have memberships to most of the museums around town, right? This was true in both DC and in Houston. And you don't need a membership to get into the Smithsonian, but if you're a local person in the DC area, the Smithsonian has, special things that are going on. Special programs for DC locals. And those are pretty good programs. So you can get into one of those things. I'm not sure that those are as good as some of the special events from the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, but Museum of Fine Arts Houston, excuse me. It's the correct way to say it. Again, okay. So that latter one for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, they had some really good programs. Why are those guys way down there? Okay, I'll eat that mango. So for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, I had this thing where every Friday, or almost every Friday, they had some sort of art opening. That made for a pretty good date, right? So what you'd say is you just say, there's this thing going on at the art museum. And would you like to come along? Right? I mean, the world isn't tough, right? That's all you needed to say. And you'd be perfectly fine. That's a really good way to get somebody to go out with you. Are you going away? So that's what I'd suggest. Is something like that, right? And this even works in smaller contexts, like in just the nightclub, right? Knew a guy, and his whole approach was more or less the following. He would see a girl he liked, and say, hey, I am going to dance. And what I would like is for you to dance with me, but I'm going to dance. That worked for him all the time. And he was completely average. Right? I mean, this is this is not something that you cannot do. This is something you can do, right? Is you just change the approach, right? The approach isn't about you. The approach is about doing something, and doing something where you need a partner. And, you know, you think she would be a good person to do it with. And then you can go do the thing, and maybe you'll like the thing, maybe you won't like the thing. And same thing with her. We've got 2 rings of reaping. Oh, this one's cursed. I've been really low on scrolls. I haven't seen one for ages. Okay, those guys don't have anything I want. It's the way down. Now I'm adequate with the broadsword. Looks creepy. So you just have to change your sort of change your point of view. It's a good thing to do. Recharging, wonderful. So stop making the dates be about you, which we all know it really is, but and start making the dates be about doing things. Crap. This is bad, even if I don't see the original way up. There it is. Okay. So the first piece, that's the first piece of advice again. Make sure that it's all about you're doing something as a as an event. You're not doing something just for your own ego, right? That's what we want to avoid. which is good. Not just, I mean, most important thing is that it's more practical, right? It's something that actually women say yes to, and I should say they say yes to it more than they should have. Right. That's my opinion. Women who didn't really like me and knew they didn't really like me said yes. So I would counsel, right, using that as a method. Now there is a problem with that method, right? And that problem is first you have to know women well enough to know if you know women well enough to, how should I say this? You need to know women well enough to know that you like them, right? I don't know, does that make any sense? You need to know enough women well enough that you are reasonably sure it's going to be a flood trap. Oh, okay. I forgot to do the eels here. Now there are just those eels. Oh, and this is here's a bunch of scrolls. So at least I got some scrolls now. So that was worth coming back in for. So now you're telling me, the whole big issue is, of course, what did I do? I wanted it to go there before, so I could do this. Okay, I do not. Okay, well, what have I found? I found summon monsters. So I'll do the stuff here, teleportation. Where did I teleport to? Way down there. U is protect weapon, excellent. V is remove curse, perfect. And then we will wait here for W. Good. And I have a wand. H2M, slowness. So you have to meet women first, right? This is really where the problem comes in. This is why people are wandering around doing things, is that the biggest problem for someone is, identifying women. Or maybe not identifying them, but toxic goblin. Okay, let's Try not to. Okay, that's likely the end of that ogre. Yep, there was. So, how do you meet the women, right? How do you meet women? I mean, it's pretty banal, actually. What you have to do is you have to be somewhere women are, right? This can be quite challenging. It turns out that men and women don't happen to usually have the same interests. So, you have to end up in a place where they are, but you don't want to end up in a place where you don't want to be, right? So, and some places just might not work out so well. You can be the creepy dude at the yoga class. Nobody likes dudes who do yoga. They are all creeps, right? You can. I don't really know what do women do. I'm thinking about my wife, but my wife mostly just works at home, so oh, I forgot that I have a protected broadsword. So the general idea here is what you probably ought to do is you ought to go somewhere where the women are. Probably not a pickup bar, right? I mean, you could go to a pickup bar, but I mean, what have I been saying? That's really low. It's not really a quality way to meet women. Let's say that, right? That's not really where you're going to meet women you want to see twice. Well, you might meet some women you want to see naked twice, which might be all you really care about. But that's probably because you haven't. That's probably because you're one of those 27% of dudes who are 30 years old and have never had sex, right? So that is not generally a good thing. And it's hard to say. I mean, the easiest place to meet women is at school. So once you're out of school, it gets harder and harder. Right? Life doesn't get easier as far as dating is concerned as you get older. Or at least as far as this part of dating is concerned. There is something good that happens, which is you become more valuable, right? But meeting women becomes harder, and for lots of reasons. Now, as a dude, obviously, becoming more valuable as you get older. Crap. Okay, telepathy would have been okay, but darkness wouldn't have been. Nor was it fire immunity. I'm not sure if they're in the same order. Okay, but, that's basically it. You go out places, talk to people. Don't talk to women, talk to people. That is, if you're just talking to women, you'll look creepy, right? You will be creepy. Let's put it that way. If you're just making cold approaches to chicks, and that's all they see, they know you're a creep, right? All you want to do is you want to get in their pants. Go off, talk to people, wherever that is. And, I'm saying the only real example I can give is a coffee shop. Now, that is not the only place, but it's the only place that I know where you could be in a place with women and it would definitely be okay, right? And it's not a place that's just a bunch of drunk people trying to get into each other's pants, right? And look, unless you are, I have no idea who women like these days. George Clooney, let's say. Unless you are hot and rich and something like that. Unless you're an NBA player, you're probably not going home with someone. All right, at one of those bars, if the women are looking to get laid at one of those bars, they're looking for what they consider. They're looking for somebody who's above a 5 on their scale, above a 7 on their scale, really, which on your scale would be a 9 or a 10, right? That's all they're going to go home with, right? Remember, you're a 6 looking for an 8, being pursued by 4s, right? Well, that 8 is looking for a 10 and being pursued by these stupid, ugly 6s like you, right? So that's a pretty awful spot. But if you're at a coffee shop and you're talking to people, not just chicks, but you're just randomly talking to people, not too much, just a little, it's not creepy to talk to the woman, all right? As long as you're talking about stuff, you're talking about real things. You're not negging her, you're not, talking to her about her underpants, right? You're talking to her about, something that looks like you might have something in common with based on the crap that's around her table, or, maybe you've got something on your table and you ask an opinion about it or something like that, right? But you do that with not just women, you do that with dudes too, right? And if you're doing it with dudes, if you're doing the same thing, then it's not creepy, right? And then after you get 5 women, this is the thing. 1, both will talk to you, and 2, you actually like, right? If you're talking to them and you don't like them, or you feel something, some sort of resistance, stay away. Then, make a plan. Say, I want to go to some place, right? It does not have to be the museum, but I found museums are good. So dinner in a museum, chicks dig it. I would avoid, the roller derby. I would avoid a movie. Movies are fine, but save that to the 4th date, right? Remember, you're the cruise director, and it's your job to pretend to be fun, okay? Now, you and I both know that you're a boring piece of shit, but you don't let her know that, okay? You pretend to be fun. And so that's one of the things that those nights at the museum had. Or even afternoons. Sometimes they'd go afternoons to the museum, to different museums that weren't on special days. But, the special night at the museum or some special event, that's usually a really good honey trap, right? That's really good for getting a woman to do something with you. Because it sounds interesting. It sounds like they don't get a second chance, right? And then after you've done that, my usual way to do it was I'd make a move, be easily rebuffed. If she said yes to the second date, she's ready for the move and she's into it, okay? It's that simple, right? After you've made that move, if she's completely offended and never wants to go anywhere with you again, or she tells you to never do that again, right? That's a different story. You can talk about that later, some other time. Then, it's fine, right? If she's not interested in you, she's not interested in you, that's fine. You have 4 other chances, and you have to find a new special event, but you have 4 other chances. But if she comes back, she's ready for you, okay? Might not go all the way, but you can get some petting done. It'll be okay. You'll enjoy it, and you can keep on advancing, right? So after about a month and a half, if you haven't gotten what you wanted, then it's probably not going to happen. But I've never been in that situation. Any girl who's gone out with me 3 times, whether or not even if it was later, we slept together, right? Maybe we slept together on the second date, maybe we slept together on the 5th. We slept together. So 3 is really the lucky number, right? You can handle 1 bad date in that. Can't handle 2. So be easily rebuffed. It's like, hey, I would like to kiss you now. And then she says no, and you go, bam, bam. Okay, that's okay. Don't need to do it. And then you say, I'd like to see you again. And she says yes or no. Actually, she always says yes. She always says yes, right? I mean, that's the truth about it. If you've done something special like I told you, and you're easily rebuffed like that, she's going to say yes to a second date. It's a non-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's going to happen, right? I mean, this isn't, like I said, it's not rocket science. It does take a little bit of work. You have to read the events page or something like that and figure out what's going on. But she'll enjoy it. She'll enjoy going on the art crawl with you, going and visiting all the different artists' places and stuff like that. And that's what you want to do, is you just want to make her happy, even if it doesn't always make you happy. The things that really annoyed me were the things that were really long, like, the 4th of July giant picnic thing that lasted 7 or 8 hours, and she wanted to do everything. But it works out perfectly well. You just have to meet the chicks, right? And you have to meet them as human beings. And if you do a little bit of sorting in advance, right? And you say, okay, these are some girls. I don't know them very well. If you know them pretty well, it's probably over by now. But, if I don't know them pretty well, but I kind of like them. I like talking to them, once every week or other week or whatever. I'll ask them out the next time I see them. This is what I have. This is what I have on Friday. Make sure that you're in a place where you meet people on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, right? And then on Monday, you meet one of those girls and you ask her out. She says no, and you go to the other place on Tuesday. You meet one of those girls. You ask her out. She says no. Wednesday, she says yes. Or maybe the first one says yes. Usually, always the first one says yes. If you've done your research, if you've been talking to them and you kind of know that they kind of like you, usually they're all going to say yes, actually. Actually, dating's pretty easy. All you have to do is meet the women first. That's hard. Dating's not hard. Meeting the women is hard. So outside of school, inside of school, it's easy, right? So, I mean, that's another model. If you want to find, if you're not meeting women, take a night class, right? Take a night class at the local community college in, art history, I guess if you like lesbians. And we already talked about lesbians, right? You don't date lesbians. It's a Venn diagram thing. There's a disjunction in there, and you're part of the disjunction. So what we need to, really just meet people. Night classes are a good idea. They're kind of expensive. I just hang out in the same place, at night. At night is usually better. Like hang out at the same coffee shop I usually did from 8 to 10. I mean, it depends on when it closes. 8 to 10, 7 to 9, 6 to 8 during the week. Usually. Not always, but usually. Maybe do that with 2 or 3 coffee shops so that, like I said, you can ask people out at those different coffee shops, and you want to do that because you don't want that woman 1 seeing you with woman 2 and blah, blah, blah. She knows she's number 2, she might not be interested, but, just ask them to say, hey, I'm going to this event on Friday, and I'd like you to come with me. Could be anybody, but I'd like it to be you. Right? Sounds good to me. Does it sound good to you? Sounds good to her. So that's the dating advice for you right now. Make sure that, in general, you meet some people and don't come on too strong.